Welcome back to the Goldbox podcast. My name is Henry Darnell. It's loud. Welcome back to the Goldbox podcast. I'm Henry Darnell, aka HENDOG, and I'm bringing you the news and the topics from this week. This week is very special. We have a guest by the name of Alexandria Williams, or Alex Williams, if you will. She is a phenomenal person that works at KHOU. She's a graduate of Purdue and Prairie View A&M University. Always a good thing. And she I wanted to come by to share her knowledge and share her story that people can learn from. And it's a very good show this week, even though I'm solo dolo. The two other people that I usually work with, they had other obligations. But the train got to keep rolling. So this week, we had, I think, 3 topics. For the first one, we are talking about, first I'm going to talk about the corrections. The senator that was talking about Talia Jones in the millennial piece that we did, his name is Ben Sass. I don't know what state he's from, but he was the senator that took the open letter that she did and Stephanie did, and he basically used both of those in his book. So basically, LIBOR law cannot be used against him, and also he's a senator. So that's where all the commotion came from and everything. And also, it was John McEnroe, and he said that that Serena Williams was if she was on tour, she would be the 700th player in the world, which we still think is crazy. I don't know why he said that in the first place, but we're gonna keep rocking. And I think that's it for corrections. But the first thing we're gonna talk about is Vic Mensa. Vic Mensa, I've followed him for a minute. Remember he came out with Down on My Luck, and he came out with You Mad with Kanye West, and now he's come out with his first album. And his first album is entitled The Autobiography. And I've heard most of the album. I did a quick run through of it, and it is phenomenal. And the only thing that people had a problem with was him being, a little bit more on the savage side, I think, in the way that he chooses to tell a story. But at the same time, you have to look at the environment that he was in. So when you look at that situation, and you look at Chicago, and you look at all the things that have happened in that situation, and you've been through that situation, you've been in that environment for most of your young adult life, why not talk about it? Why not bring it up to the light and not allow news media coverage to play a role in, determining what people think of Chicago? Why not do it through his perspective? Why not do it through his way of seeing things, and allowing his music to speak for him and speak for his community? Because it's a crazy situation right now. It's not the best of, but at the same time, talking about it gets it out there in the open where people can understand what young people are going through in that community. I think it's a great album. It definitely came at the right time when people wanted to call it Chirac and wanted to call it a lot of things. And I believe that it's something well deserved, well needed, and I hope he goes double platinum and is able to gain from this album, because he put a lot of work in. He worked with No ID. He worked with a lot of producers to make this thing happen. And I that's it for the autobiography. I'd say go listen to it. The only qualm I have with it is being in the situation I'm in, and coming up in a certain kind of way. I've always liked clean records. I wish there was a clean version of the album where I could share it with other people. Other than that, it's a good album. Because that's the only qualm. I think that's where, older people, they tend to leave off the bus and they don't tend to rock with it a lot is with all the cursing and, you know, all that. But at the same time, what do you tell somebody that's been through that situation? Like, you know, what do you do in that situation? Most times, you know, if you're not in the best of situations, that's not the best. You know, you're raised in a certain way. You know, it's all kinds of stuff. So you're gonna be under stress and you're gonna be under a lot of situations. So other than the cursing, it's a pretty good outlook, and I think it's a pretty good album. The next subject we have this week is one denoting the topic of the NCAA, one talking about the topic of a guy by the name of Donald De La Haye. He was UFC kickoff, UCF, University of Central Florida. He's a kickoff specialist for that football team. And earlier, I think a month or so ago, he was told that he needed to demonetize his videos on YouTube because he is not allowed by NCAA rules to, I repeat, to make money from his appearance and what he's doing and from his own, his self, basically, from the work that he did. He didn't get a gift from it. He didn't get no rewards from a outside person. He was just told that he had to demonetize it because he couldn't make money off of his brand and his person. And I think this week, I don't know, I just did Obama, but this week he was told that he is no longer eligible, although he went along with the compliance and talked to compliance and talked to the staff and talked to everybody he needed to talk to, that he would no longer be eligible to play in the NCAA. Now, mind you, the NCAA makes millions and millions of dollars off of the athletic performances of, you know, a lot of athletes, you know, black, white, Mexican, or other. A lot of kids go to school with the concept of, I'm going to school so I can get an education and possibly go play on the pro level. It's, you know, not a uncommon trend. It's been going on for a long time. They say that, you know, whenever you're a student athlete, that you are being compensated well enough to, you know, be in the deal that you're in. If you take a gift, if you take anything, even if you don't know all the rules, it's a very thick handbook that a lot of athletes have to go through in the compliance office and the NCAA. And even me, I remember going through as a staff member, going through as a student athletic trainer, where you're always on the road and you're always doing things that are taking up much of your time for little pay, when most people make minimum wage. And the same goes for athletes, where you're constantly having to go to meetings and go to practice and then go to games and then be on the road for away games, and then home games you probably at a hotel the night before because they don't want you on campus being part of festivities or being part of homecoming and being part of a lot of things. So the sacrifice is real, but at the same time, I think that we've gotten to a point where there needs to be some kind of compensation, and there needs to be a change in the rules that have been made over time to allow people that are creators and that are creative people to make money from what they're doing, because it's basically like a regular job, but they see it as somebody making money from what they do, you know, like they're a celebrity. And to a certain extent, you have a lot of people following you on Instagram and, you know, Facebook and watching his videos. But at the same time, a lot of work goes into his videos. A lot of work goes into what he does. And it would be just like working any other place. You wouldn't expect to go to Walmart and go work there 40 hours a week and have to go to meetings every week and then not get compensated for it, or at least get compensated minimum wage, which even at minimum wage is still a crazy thing because it's not really a living wage nowadays. This is going back to Talia Jane and what she was saying with her job. And people get mad at millennials, but it's been a problem that's been going on for a very, very long time. So I think there has to be a big change up in the way that the NCAA does things, the way that schools do things, and just like they did with the using the likenesses of football players in games and using rosters when they did the NCAA game. Even though it was a phenomenal game, it was a great game. The road to glory and playing for your favorite college, or your HBCU or whatever school that was in that game, and living out that dream, that was cool. But then when you don't compensate the kids that are in that game, that is just one of the red flags that pop up in my head nowadays. And I believe that what's happening now is like with Northwestern and what a lot of other people that are going through these kinds of things, with Northwestern being able to unionize and talk about being compensated, it's a step in the right direction. And I think him taking a stand for what he believes in and what he believes to be a honestly something that's not offensive, something that's not breaking any laws, where he's not doing anything that's negative. He's putting himself in a positive light. Although he lost his scholarship, I think it's a step in the right direction. I hope, through this someone will help him out, because he did make some phenomenal videos. He's a phenomenal athlete, and even I think he's been there 2-3 years. And he was right at the end of the road. Hopefully he still gets a shot at, being in the NFL, or if he wants to do something, But at the same time, they always say, when a door closes, another one opens. So, best of luck to him and Deestroying. As you see him on YouTube, I'll actually link his YouTube account down at the bottom of my video, because we don't get that many views, but at the same time, it still needs to be known, and he needs to, get his spotlight and his time in the sun, even though he's going through some rough times now. Okay, so we talked about the corrections, and we talked about De La Haye or Deestroying. Again, these are some stories. It's always with this podcast, with the Goldbox podcast. I never really got to tell people what it was all about. With the Goldbox podcast, it's always been a situation of where we want to take stories and things that are happening in our daily lives and talk about them in a way where people can take what they're hearing, pay it forward to somebody else, probably use it for themselves, and truly get some stories that are helpful, or even get stories that are, cause a feeling inside, most people. Because like with when we talked about Talia Jones last week, it was a heated discussion, but at the same time, it was discussion that was needed. Because millennials, we go through a lot of stuff. Some things that we did, cause ourselves, but a lot of things that have happened way before us that, like with not social media, but like with Social Security and, retirement and, jobs, and a lot of things that happen in this day and age that we just need to talk about, so that if we're young, if we're old, if there's anything that we're doing in this day and age, it can be helpful to somebody. Just like we talked about Vic Mensa. Vic Mensa, he went through a lot of things. As an artist, he went through a lot of things with drugs and depression, and now he's spilling his life out so that other people can see they're not alone. They're not by themselves. Same with Donald and Deestroying and his whole journey. That's not going to be the end of the road for him. But I believe that that's something that can be beneficial to somebody that's going to NCAA. And it can be a step in the right direction where we do get stuff done, where people are not necessarily, not necessarily how should I say, greedy with their money, but compensate people that are actually part of that are actually part of the system, and they can make a decision for themselves. Do I want to go academically? Do I want to go to school for just to be a student? Do I want to be a student athlete and take that chance to see if I can make it into the pros, if I have the skills necessary to do so? So, it could be helpful to somebody that's in high school. It could be helpful to somebody that's in NCAA. So they know, okay, if I'm doing this, how can I do it in a way where, it not only helps myself, but it also helps other people. And the last story we had for today was one that was on the weird side, like Coco Loco. Coco Loco was our last, crazy piece that we talked about. And with Coco Loco was about the snortable chocolate. I don't know where they thought of that at. It's crazy in itself. And we have another kind of crazy topic. And again, it's just me today. And then I have a guest coming in later. Is a Wisconsin firm voluntarily microchips employees for access to building and computers. When looking at the firm, it was on USA Today, I think, and I'll make sure to credit whoever wrote the article, down below in the description. And in Wisconsin, this firm, what they talked about it weeks ago, was the topic of microchipping employees. The microchip they're talking about is not necessarily one that is a GPS tracker or something that can be like a phone. It's one that is like what you would find inside a dog. It's weird saying this now, but it's one that you'd find inside a dog, and you'd find it in you find it in a dog, and they scan it. And it allows people to identify, if they have, who's the pet's owner, where they're from, all that kind of stuff, and what address they're at, that kind of stuff. Well, with this microchip, what it does is, it's like Apple Pay. So, if you've seen Apple Pay before, it's inside your phone. It's something that you use on you use it. You can scan it on a reader. And what it does is it takes that info from your phone, and it allows you access to your money, to a lot of things. So what the microchip is doing is allowing people to take the microchip and get access to the building that they're actually working in. And along with that, they'll have a reader at their desk to use for computers and other devices inside the firm. Again, it's a voluntary situation. It's not necessarily something that is being done mandatory, even though, most people are probably waiting for that time where they say we're going to have to get a microchip for a temperature and, all these things. But I'm not on that boat. And I think a lot of people are on that boat. But it was a voluntary deal. It allows you to basically get a little bit faster access into the building, allow a faster access into computers, and I'm still on the fence about it because it's just a person can say one thing and do another. So, they say it's like Apple Pay and it's no GPS tracking, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, who's to say what they're putting in you and what they're not putting in you and all that kind of stuff? It could be anything, and I think it's just like with the Coco Loco or anything else. There just needs to be more time put into it, to truly get a better sense of if that's the right thing to do. I think it's just with a lot of things nowadays are getting thrown out to market and thrown out to the consumer and thrown out to people nowadays, employees. It's just like when you're on your phone, when you're in Google. If you're on Google, what you can do is Google will tell you where your home is by the times that you've driven somewhere, or where do you stop most times. Google can tell you what you last searched, um, all kinds of things, and there's all kinds of tracking and location finders and allowing access to apps and all that kind of stuff. And we never really think about that in depth. Now, and then they had the problems where they were dealing with smart TVs at one point and saying that they had it where TVs weren't going off all the way. So I think just with this situation, it is getting to a point where we just gotta think before dealing with anything of this nature, because although it's a step in the future, into a futuristic setting, even though I'm mumbling my words right now, but it's cool. I think it just like with microchips, or just like with drugs, or just with like a lot of things, there needs to be a lot of R&D that goes into whatever we're doing and whatever is being used, because it was just like talcum powder and just like a lot of things that we use. Because like if the FDA, you wouldn't do the same thing with the FDA. You wouldn't take a medicine that isn't approved by the FDA, although most people do that nowadays with supplements, believing that they'll help them lose weight or something like that. People trust the FDA to a certain extent, not all the way, but they trust it to a certain extent to make sure that the drugs they're taking, the things that they're consuming, isn't gonna have a harmful effect on them. And I think it's the same with the microchips. They probably did do a lot of R&D, but I think it's futuristic, but it's not that time yet. I think it's crazy that we're at that point. I thought we would have hoverboards before we had this kind of stuff, but it's a developing story. I want to see. I wouldn't mind seeing what's happening to them, down the line. It might be perfectly fine, just like it is with dogs and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I think it's just, again, it's one of those things that it's going to take some time. And I don't think a lot of people are really up for that nowadays. Because I know, like, my dad, he has two kinds of phones. But if he could have a flip phone for the rest of his life, he would probably do that. It's like the one with the rubber on the outside and everything. But if he can't play games on it. And that's how he is. He doesn't have a Facebook because he's just not that kind of person. And it's just those things where, people don't like people, getting to know everything about them. Instagram's cool, but you have to be careful what you're putting on Instagram. And the same thing with Twitter, because Twitter has gotten a lot of people in trouble, like with Sarmucci, the Mooch. Even though he was only in office for 10 days. He had to go back to get rid of tweets, even though they were the opposite thinking of Trump at the time. And same with a lot of people, they'll say something without really thinking about it. And next thing you know, they're having to explain 4 or 5 years later why they said what they said. But again, it's been crazy. It's a lot of these topics have been crazy this week, but at the same time, we need to talk about these things. But next, we have, even though we're missing two people, two from the Three Amigos, and we have, there's a lot stuff going on. We'll probably have one of them back on next week, and then probably both of them on the next week after that. Because it's now getting time where I know Steven has to go back to training camp because he's still in football, which is ironic that we talked about that kind of stuff, but that doesn't really affect him right now. But hopefully it changes for the better for him and the NCAA, because he's not in that situation right now. But just high hopes for him. Be able to get his education and everything, and then Taryn leaves, I think, a week after him. So I'll probably be solo dolo again. But again, even though they're gone this week, I reached out to a person by the name of Alexandria Williams. She's a Prairie View alumni. She's from business management. has her master's from Purdue University for marketing, because it's a great program. She's worked for the Alzheimer's Association. She's worked for Culture Map in Houston. She's still a contributor, I think. And now she works for KHOU with the marketing team and the PR, with the community outreach. So dealing with a lot of the programs and things that are done in the community of Houston. Again, with anything, I believe that with this podcast, even though we're on the 9th episode right now, hopefully we'll have plenty more before the end of the year. I just want to bring on a lot of people that have a different perspectives, different ideals, a different, ways of thinking, and, took different journeys to get where they are. Like myself, I know I'm a super senior when it comes to, to college. I had problems with health and, just trying to stay focused and trying to be in the, at a point where I can, not be stressed out about it and money and everything. But now I'm in a place where I can truly, learn in a, positive manner and have, finish out my degree. I know other people, bring a lot to the table, whether it's good or bad, and you can learn from that. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring her on. And what you'll hear next is the interview with Alexandria Williams. And hope you enjoy. Okay. Welcome back to the Goldbox podcast. I'm HENDOG, and I'm joined by a special guest today, a very productive person, as I hope to be.
Happy to be here.
This is Alex Williams, or I don't know about people with their whole.
You can call me Alexandria or Alex, either way.
Okay. It's been a long time.
It has.
I know I had you as one of my pals for my building, and that's how long it's been. And hopefully, I can get out of there one day.
Yeah, I was a pal for 45 my sophomore year at Prairie View, so it's been a minute.
Dealing with the hoodlums of my whole crew and all that kind of stuff.
Y'all were okay.
Like cuckoo, but okay, they all right. But yeah. So with this podcast and how everything usually goes, situation of getting other people's stories, getting other people's input, that
right.
help other people. And I know you're at KHOU now. Mm-hmm. You're over the marketing side of things.
Yeah, the community marketing. Yeah.
So going out into Houston, even though you're from Dallas though.
Yeah. Go Cowboys.
I feel that. You know what I'm saying? I liked Texans, but they weren't around. So
right.
But how did you get to where you are now?
Oh my gosh, that is a multi-layered question. So of course I went to Prairie View A&M, got my business marketing degree there. I played volleyball there, PAL, SGA, student government, CAB, all of that good stuff. And I graduated and I actually moved back home. So I know a lot of students when they graduate from college, they're always like, I have to have, this job or make this salary in order to be successful, because it's stressful, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, it's like 1 minute you're like graduation, and then you're like, oh crap, like now I'm like really in the real world, So I actually moved back home to East Texas, where I grew up, born in Dallas, but I actually worked at the high school I went to, Texas High. So it's like a large 4A. I was the college advisor there for a year and a half.
Okay.
So if you can imagine, it was a great job, but in my head, I'm like, I'm back in the country, at my parents' house. Like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be this, doing something else in marketing, right?
Yeah, I definitely understand.
Yeah. So did that for a year and a half. It was a hard time. Like, I won't even lie. Like, I was in Houston, and then now I'm like, working in the high school, and my teachers who I had, are thinking in their mentality, I'm still like young, that kind of thing. And on the other side, I'm only 4 years older than the seniors.
Oh, yeah.
So it was, but I had to change my mentality. So it ended up being actually a great experience that I would not trade for anything.
Oh, yeah.
Then I got a job at the Alzheimer's Association in Houston as a marketing coordinator. They're the largest nonprofit for Alzheimer's disease in the world. So I managed all of their marketing initiatives and campaigns. Take that back. So I was hired as a coordinator. Then I ended up doing the job of 2 people. And so I went to the CEO and said, hey, I'm doing the job of 2 people. I want to become manager, basically.
Yeah.
I want a promotion. There hadn't been a marketing manager ever at this chapter of this organization. And so I was like, so he was like, no, you're very green. They gave me that whole, you're very green, you're very new.
Oh, you're tenderfoot.
Yeah.
I feel that.
We want you to have a master's degree, meanwhile that like a lot of the managers didn't have master's degrees. So I'm like, why are you saying I have to have one?
Yeah.
So I was looking for other jobs, and it got around that I was going to leave, and he found out and offered me the marketing manager position.
Oh,
because I guess he figured I was invaluable. I love him now. We have a great relationship now.
So you're still working with him now, basically?
No. So got promoted to marketing manager, did that for about a year. And then I then took this job at Channel 11 in the marketing and PR department. So I'm now at Channel 11, yeah.
Okay.
Just got my master's from Purdue in December. It's been a busy couple of last years.
It seems like a whirlwind of things.
It has. It actually has. When I sit back and think about it, I'm like, wow, like a lot's happened. So God is good.
I definitely believe that. But whenever you made like the transition back home, and I know you said it was a situation, and but it wasn't the end all be all for you. I know. I
thought it was. I thought my life, I was at Prairie View, and, like I said, I was super involved, like, having a good time. I'm supposed to, have this great job, when I graduate, and that wasn't the case. I was watching my engineer friends, architecture friends get offers, junior year. I'm trying to figure stuff out. And it's not like I wasn't applying myself, because I had 3. There was one semester when I was working at the outlet mall. I'm sure everybody does. I was working at Banana Republic in Aldo at the Cypress Premium Outlet. I had 15 hours, and I was working for Live Nation as an intern for free. So I was driving from Prairie View twice a week to downtown to work for Live Nation as an intern. So I ended up having like 4 internships, after college. And it's like I'm doing all of these steps I'm supposed to be doing, to make this work, and it wasn't working.
Yeah, doing the routine thing. And
yeah, what everybody says, go intern, work here, do this, good grades, but it wasn't working. And so for a minute there, for about 6 months, I was not, I wasn't happy.
It wasn't too hot.
It wasn't. And my dad's a pastor. And so I was dealing with, keeping the faith, and, things aren't looking, good right now, praising God in the hallway to opens the door, all that kind of stuff. And so it took me a minute, but I'm so thankful now for that trial and for that lesson, because now I'm a little bit more patient, and I appreciate where I am now. Not where I want to be yet, but I appreciate the quote unquote struggle or the process.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, how do you feel about just being in like the local news organization, especially nowadays compared to?
It's different. I never saw myself, like I said, my undergrad degree is in business marketing. So I saw myself working for a corporation, never saw myself working for entertainment, media company, let alone local news. Because I'm a millennial, so it's like we get our news from like, social media or like Reddit or Yelp, or we follow, the Washington Post, New York Times, and that kind of thing, but on social media, right? And so it's ever evolving. And so we're constantly thinking of ways, where I work to connect with millennials or people, because everybody who watches local news doesn't follow us on social media. Everybody follows on social media, does not watch us on TV. So, how do we bridge that gap of, viewership?
I definitely understand that, because like I got an 80-year-old person at home that I deal with all the time. So.
Yeah, it's so different, because I bet they're glued to the TV. Like when the news comes on,
oh yeah,
it's 4, 5, and 6. So it's totally different now. So trying to figure out that way to make sure that we're getting our message out there to everybody.
So you say, you're a millennial. I'm a millennial too. I know it's a big gap, and it always changes. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what generation I'm in most times, but do you think it's played a big role in you, having an advantage going into your job?
I definitely think it does. I think it's both. It's double-sided. Regardless of where to be working, I think that millennials or anybody has interesting perspectives. So whether you're a millennial, baby boomer, generation XYZ, whatever, your perspective will not be the same as the other person. But I think that we add a unique view. But at the same time, as a millennial, you can be viewed as, well, they don't know this yet. Meaning, while I might not know that, but what I do know might be a lot more beneficial to you, what you're trying to accomplish. So, yeah, I think it's both. It's double-sided when it comes to that.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. Because I know the podcast before that, we were just talking about it a lot. Because nowadays, people think that millennials are lazy and we don't.
And I think the opposite. Of course, there's always some in the group, but I think that we're like hustlers. Like, I think that we're go-getters. I also am a contributing writer for Culture Map, which is an online lifestyle magazine. So I think that we there are those few that might, want things given to them, but for the most part, I feel like we're out there trying to get it.
Oh, yeah, definitely, because you're all over the place. KHOU and then Alzheimer's Association and then Culture Map. Because I saw that and I was like, reading through articles and all that kind of stuff.
I was writing the Where to Shop column, like where to shop locally in Houston for Culture Map. I don't anymore, but I still am a contributing writer. And I'm forever grateful for that experience as well. So
yeah. So it more or less nowadays it's come to a point where anybody that is trying to do something, you more or less have to find a different avenue to do what you're doing.
I don't think a different avenue. I will say about our generation, I feel like, we want things now. Like not saying that we don't want to work for it, but we want to be a little instantaneous. So, if I'm not getting this now or, in the next 6 months, then I'm just going to give up on that and do something else.
Yeah.
Things take time. So we have to, work for that, and it takes time to get there.
I don't have my monitor today for some reason. That's my fault. 'Cause I was making sure I don't want to waste nobody's time or anything like
you're
that.
good.
But what would because in the field, it's a variety of people and all that kind of stuff. But do you find it hard as a black female in that field that you're in now, or is it?
Of course, we all have our different, battles and struggles. I would be remiss if I were to say that I don't think twice before I get braids, or I don't think twice before, I wear this nail color. I won't say that is not the case whatsoever. But in terms of like blatant holdbacks or setbacks, I haven't seen that, for me, on a large scale. But of course there are things that I, think twice about, of course, when I'm doing anything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that would be the same for, somebody who is, Hispanic or, Chinese or, anything, you know what I mean? So.
Mm-hmm. I definitely understand. So being that you're in mass communications and you're in business marketing and all that kind of stuff, what can you say to somebody that's going into that field? What should they do? What should they?
I keep pushing. When you hear, a no or a not yet, that does not mean to give up. Like, I'm 27, and so I still have a long ways to go, of course, but this didn't, where I am didn't happen overnight. So I would say to keep going and don't wait for somebody to give you a yes to do something. So for example, this podcast is great. And I feel like for somebody who wants to be on TV or be an anchor, don't wait for that internship or that job. Do a YouTube channel now. Like, why aren't you doing that now?
Yeah.
And I would say to be very knowledgeable. I had a young lady come to the office yesterday who was interested in, she's a junior actually at Prairie View. She was interested in, doing media, but she said that she didn't watch the news. She said that she doesn't like local news.
The main requirement.
Yeah, and what was the other thing? That she doesn't get her news from anywhere. I'm like, but you want to be an anchor on local news. So, just being very knowledgeable and aware of, what the industry, because it's changing so much. 12 years ago, social media wasn't a thing for local news. Now it's a huge part of what we do. So I would just say to for sure don't wait on anybody to do what you want to do.
Okay. Because I definitely see that now. Because this podcast is episode 8, I think.
It's what?
Episode 8.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, 8 or 9.
Keep going, yeah.
And my major is education. So, but this has always been something that was in the back of my mind to do.
Yeah.
And I just, like, it's crazy because now there's so many avenues for a lot of people to do a lot of things.
Right.
Like SoundCloud if you're trying to do music, and then there's YouTube if you're trying to do videos or media, and there's no real excuse now for if you want to try to do something. There's not
whatsoever. And I know we're also in this phase, and I don't think it'll last very long, but in this phase of, being an entrepreneur, being a boss or what have you. If that's in your heart, be an entrepreneur, own your own business or what have you, but everybody will have a boss regardless. Even if you're an entrepreneur, your customers or your stakeholders, are going to be your boss, so yeah. Just, I would say not to hop on waves. Like, do what's true to you and what you're going to continue to push for. That's because entrepreneurship, I have friends on their own business and they're wonderful and fabulous, but that's a 24/7, job. So
I could definitely understand.
Yeah.
So, what is, because my other question for you was, I know you did your master's at Purdue.
Yeah.
And you did go to Prairie View, which is HBCU.
Yep.
So what is your what's your takeaway from going, having the experience of being at both, a PWI and HBCU?
So I will say, so when I grew up in East Texas, the high school that I went to was half African American, half Caucasian. A lot of my friends were Caucasian until I went to Prairie View, to be honest. Oh. So I didn't really have a lot of African American friends, so I went to Prairie View. And then when I went to Purdue, that was mainly remote, so I wasn't actually on campus. But I will say, for me, when making the choice to go to Prairie View for undergrad and my master's for Purdue, I had highly considered going to HBCU again for my master's. But to me, I didn't want it to come across to employers, this is personally for me, I didn't want it to come across to employers that, she can only communicate to this particular audience. Yeah. Because she got both of her degrees from HBCUs. And vice versa, with the PWI going to both. And that's sad to say, but it's the truth. We read things at face value on resumes or, what have you. And so I just didn't want it to come across in that aspect. And the program at Purdue is awesome for masters in mass comm, so that's why I chose that.
Okay, that makes sense, because I know my journey for like the collegiate level is not done yet.
Yeah,
I was supposed to be coming out a long time ago, but that's for another story, another time.
I mean, everybody has their own journey. Heck, I should have stayed in college a couple more years.
Shoot. But I did the same thing, but it wasn't after I graduated. It was I went back to Lamarck ISD before they shut down all that kind of stuff. But okay, so you at KHOU, Purdue, then we have Prairie View. What's the biggest takeaway you have from going to HBCU? Because you said 50% white, black, Caucasian. Let me say that.
You get so much drive. I would not change going to Prairie View for anything. I think it's the best HBCU, period. And I won't lie, I go to Howard's homecoming almost every year. We have the best school. Because my choices, I was thinking, my dad played football at TCU, Texas Christian. I was thinking about going there or U of H. I would have changed experience forever. It makes you have the thickest skin ever. It makes you a hustler. You dealing with financial aid, as we all know, anything. But I just think it puts a different drive in you, a different appreciation for certain things. So yeah, wouldn't trade it for anything. There were certainly ups and downs, but yeah, definitely glad with my choice. My old sister went to UT. So we had definitely different experiences where we went to school.
So, was it your first choice, or was it necessary?
It wasn't. I got offered a volleyball scholarship my first year. Like I said, my dad played football at TCU, so I was considering going there. And I had also gotten into, like I said, U of H and a few other schools. left me a scholarship, and I visited, and I liked what I saw, and so I went, and yeah, rest is history.
Yeah, cause and then your pathway changed with that too, because you had as far as the athletic standpoint too. So
Yeah.
So like, did you have to pivot like far as going through that event in your life? And
Yeah, that was it's a whole different conversation in and of itself. So I was heavily involved in high school, and when you play a sport in college, that's your life. That's your full-time job.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up actually dislocating my knee my second day of 2-a-days at Prairie View. And so I did play for that year, but they wanted me to come back my sophomore year and play with no scholarship. And I had been playing volleyball like my entire life, like playing club. So like when we were in off season for school, I was playing, club.
Yeah.
And so I've been playing forever. I wanted to go see Olympics and all of this kind of stuff. And so it was a hard decision, but I did not see myself playing and doing a full-time job, doing that for free, essentially. But I'm so thankful that happened, because then I was able to get so involved with other things. I was able to go watch the Twin SWAC, in football in 2009 and all that kind of stuff that wouldn't have happened had I been playing. So yeah, definitely a transition.
So you got the best of both worlds.
I did. I did. I do wish I would have played another year or two, but things happen for a reason. So.
Oh yeah, because I know I did. I think because I came in a year after you, I think, and did athletic training, and that is just a crazy situation.
Yeah.
And it's athlete or staff or whatever.
Yeah, it's and I can't even imagine, volleyball, of course, love volleyball, and that was difficult, but I can't even imagine how, like, football and all that kind of stuff, and then even with band and, Black Boxes and cheerleaders, they were, out there during the summer just like we were, so.
Yeah. So, well, because I know, got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice you can give to just anybody?
Anybody? Can we narrow it down?
Okay. Okay. How about somebody that is just, what would you say to somebody that's probably younger than you, paying it forward to somebody else? As I know,
I'm trying to think. Always be willing to learn and lend a hand. I hate when, I'm at work and doing something and somebody's like, well, that's not my job. You will get so much further doing something and lending a hand. Do you need help with this? Can I do with this? Than you would by just doing the bare minimum. And I would say reach out to somebody. If you see somebody in your field who you admire who's doing something, be like, hey, can I take you to coffee and ask you questions about this? I guarantee you that they will more than likely be like, yes, I would love to tell you about how I got here, or, what I had to go through. Maybe you can avoid going through.
Yeah.
I have so many wonderful mentors a lot of them are women who have paid it forward to me, and I'm so grateful for that. So don't be afraid to ask a mentor for help, or be willing to learn always and help out.
Yeah, because definitely that's why I look back and I was like, oh yeah, she's a pal.
Yeah.
And then like you're able,
and
then just to be able to follow somebody's, not no stalker kind of way. That
no,
crazy,
yeah, no, I'm with you.
But just to follow somebody's, follow their life and just follow them and see what they're doing in their life and get a window into what they're doing. That's why I reached out. I was like, she's a phenomenal person.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, and all the stuff that you're doing can help somebody else down the road and just pay it forward.
Yeah, I'm by no means, like I said, I'm so grateful for where I am and what God's done in my life, but I'm by no means where I want to be. Like I said, I have so much things I want to do, all that kind of stuff like that. Like I want to, eventually teach adjunct at Prairie View, or any HBCU. Part of me going to get my master's degree is because I had one professor who was African-American woman in Prairie View. I had one. And so I was like, wow. So it's part of me going back to get that. So it's something I want to do, but like I said, so grateful for where I am now. If I could help or give advice to anybody, I'm always willing to do that.
Yeah, but it was a great interview.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for having me.
and hopefully maybe a little bit longer another time and just bring you back.
Yeah, love to.
Yeah. Great having you.
Are we on?
Hey, that was a great interview with Alexandra Williams. Hopefully, Alex can come back on another time for, be part of the the regular topics that we usually have, but I'm again, I don't want to impede on people's time, but it was great to have her for the time we did have her. And I just want to say that it was a pleasure hearing her story and hearing, picking her brain about a lot of things, going from colleges to, athletics to, going to HBCUs and just everything that she's doing now to get to to get to where she is now. Like she said, her journey, didn't go necessarily the way she planned it, but, again, she's still in her 20s just like I am. And, that can always help somebody that's behind her or possibly help somebody that's ahead of her. And I think that we can't forget that, because you never know who's watching. You never know who's seeing what you're doing as a person. And I think she may have maybe a year or two on me, but you can learn from other people, even if they're not in your degree, or even if they're not in something that you're doing, And I remember having her as a pal, and she was truly, a model of, what a person can be, and that's why, I'm glad to have her on. It took a little longer than usual because, with this podcast, I wanted to make sure before I reach out to anybody that it's in the right way and, build upon what we've been doing. Again, this has been the Goldbox podcast. If you want to hear anything that we have, you can hear it on the website at HENDOGmediadesign.com. That is my main hub. If you want to, catch some of the clips that we do have from the podcast or any of the work that I have been doing, you can go to Instagram at the same name, just not .com at the end. And if you want to catch it on the road, you can catch the visual of this podcast. We did a lot of work on the lower thirds designs and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to catch it on the road, you can always catch it on YouTube at HENDOG Media Design. And you can also catch it on iTunes. Whenever we upload it to the website, it goes straight to iTunes where you can catch any episode that we ever put up. This is episode 9. Again, it's been a pleasure. If you're listening to us in the morning, the evening, or at night, live your day to, live every day to the fullest, to the best of your ability, and we'll catch you next time. It's been Henry, aka HENDOG, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Have a good day, night, or evening, wherever you are.